Welcome back, guys. Today I'm going to go over Canon's top 3 cameras, and by the top 3 cameras I don't necessarily mean the best cameras. I mean the best bang for the buck. And they make 3 different types of cameras. They make an Aps-c camera, they make a DSLR camera, and they make a mirrorless camera. So I'm going to go over each one of these categories and tell you which one I think gives you the most bang for your buck. So that's important. So let's check this out. I'm going to start with the Aps-c, as that's the lower end camera. And it is the Canon 70D, if you can see that. Now this camera was the first Canon to have dual pixel autofocus. It shoots 20 megapixels. It's made like a tank. It does video, has face tracking, and this is a fairly old camera to be doing this kind of stuff, so it was kind of ahead of its time. It has the 19-point cross focus system to pick your focus spot. It has 20 megapixels, has a 3-inch touchscreen on the back, and it even flips out, so you got the flippy screen. It also uses the LPE6 batteries, which is the same that's in some of the DSLRs and in a lot of the newer mirrorless cameras. So 20 megapixel crop sensor, so when you're using the crop sensor, most of you know you're going to get a 1.6 magnification of your lens. So if you put a 50 millimeter lens on there, it's going to become an 80 millimeter lens. But it's a great lens, especially if you're like doing wildlife photography. That extra 60% reach is going to really help, because if you put a 200 lens on it, now it's suddenly a 320 lens. So there's a lot to be said for Aps-c cameras. They have their own place. I've shot weddings with them before we moved into the full frame. They're great cameras. They're not as good under low light, but they will get the job done. They're built like a tank, and you know, it's just hard to beat. And here's the killer thing about this. The time that I made this video, this very video I'm talking about right now, KEH has these used for $279. $279 is a fantastic deal. You can't pass that up. So in third place for Canon in the Aps-c category, I'm going to give the winner to the 70D. Now the 90D is the newest crop sensor, but I think the most bang for your buck is going to come from the 70D. So in second place we have the Canon 6D. Now this is a full frame camera, and it's 20 megapixels. It'll shoot 4.5 frames a second. I use this for weddings. I have shot so many weddings with this. It has the 3-inch LCD on the back. Now the LCD on this one doesn't flip out, so you're not going to be able to flip around and use it for YouTube or anything. But shooting weddings and portraits, getting a full frame camera, and the thing about it, the batteries last forever. I can put 2 batteries. I get the battery grip on here. You can put 2 batteries in there, and you can shoot basically an entire wedding without ever having to change batteries. It doesn't have all the new electronic stuff like the electronic viewfinders and all the electronic stuff that goes into the new mirrorless cameras. This camera is a workhorse. And get this, KEH had this camera for $369. That's $369. Now I'm not affiliated with KEH, so y'all don't think I'm trying to push you to KEH to buy something. I'm not affiliated with KEH. I've used them since the 80s. They're a great company, but I'm not affiliated with KEH. But being able to get a full frame camera for under $400, in fact, if you're just starting out, you could go buy a Canon 6D full frame and a Canon 70D crop sensor, and you're ready to start shooting. I highly recommend having 3 cameras, but you got to have at least a minimum of 2. So if I was low on money and I needed 2 really good cameras, I'd go with the Canon 6D and the Canon 70D. So some people complain because it will only shoot 4.5 frames a second, but I've never needed more than 4.5 frames a second. It's a great little camera. It's got the LCD on top. It just keeps on keeping on. So now our number 1 spot, so that the Canon 6D was the number 1 camera, bang for your buck, for the DSLR. Now the number 1 camera in the mirrorless, I'm going to give it to the Canon R6. It's full frame. It's also 20 megapixels, kind of a theme with the cameras here. They're all 20 megapixels. Now I know that the Canon 5D, not the 5D, I know that the Canon R5 has like 45 megapixels, and that's fine. That's a lot, but that's a lot of workflow. If you're shooting 1,000 pictures, that's a lot of data to store. And so seldom are you ever going to need 45 megapixels. I've had cameras that were 8 megapixels, and I've got beautiful 16 by 20s from them. So, and also under low light, I think the Canon R6 may be the very best under low light, even than the R5, because it has less pixels, so the pixels are bigger. So, you know, the Canon R6, the one thing about this thing, it will focus. It will grab focus on somebody's eyes, and it will not let go. I don't care if they run sideways, jump up and down, do flips. They're going to be in focus with their eyes. Once you catch that eye, you don't have to push the button. You can just hold your camera up. Somebody walks in front of the frame, boom, puts a red box right over their eye. They're in focus. Now, occasionally, that can be a problem because you're trying to shoot somebody else's picture and it grabs focus on somebody else. But it's easy, just touch the screen and drag it to the other eye that you want it to be on. But the focusing on this camera is just amazing. It's just the best focusing I've ever seen. It does great video. It'll do 4K 60. I usually just shoot 1080 30, but it will do 4K 60. I think the slow-mo on it's 120. But this is my main camera now that I shoot most everything with. It's got the electronic viewfinder. I think it has 3.2 million dots for the electronic viewfinder, which is just, it's a beautiful, gorgeous screen. You got the flip out screen. It's just got so many settings on it. I could do a whole show just on what this Canon R6 will do. So with that said, this camera, now it's not a $200 or $300 camera like the other ones. This is a near mirrorless. And if you go with the near mirrorless, you either have to buy the new RF glass, which is expensive, or you can get a $100 adapter and you can put all your EF lenses on it. That's what I've done a lot of. I've got some RF glass, but all my, like my 24 to 70 2.8, it's an EF and it works just fine. Usually if you throw an adapter on something, you expect a loss in quality or something to go wrong, but absolutely not. It works fine. It's great. But this camera, I think KEH had it for about $1780, $1775, somewhere in there. So it's quite a jump up, but it is a heck of a camera. I don't think there's anything that I couldn't do with this camera. On the digital shutter, it will shoot 20 frames a second. On the mechanical shutter, I believe it's 12 or 13. And this camera is so advanced. It just does so much. And one thing I love about it, 2 memory card slots. I shot for years with 1 memory card. Nothing ever went wrong, but 2 is better than 1, especially when you're shooting weddings and events that you can't redo. So I always keep 2 memory cards in there. It has 2 spots, so I keep a big memory card. I keep about a 256 or a 512 that's always in there, and then I'm changing out the one that's closest to me in and out all the time. But I keep the one in the back in there all the time, so it just acts like kind of like an external hard drive. I just keep it when it fills up. I take it and I don't format it. I just take it and I put it in a case to hold on to it. That way I've just got an extra place where my pictures are saved. So like I said, I think the Canon R6 is the best camera Canon makes, especially for the money. And then second, you can't beat the Canon 6D for $300 and something. And you can't beat the 70D for $200 and something. That's just a crazy deal. Now do keep in mind, if you're shooting Aps-c, you're shooting crop sensor, so you get a 70D, you can put a EF full frame lens on a crop sensor camera. You cannot, however, put a crop sensor lens, they're called EFS, on a full frame camera. Now, on the new mirrorless cameras, you can put your EF or RF with the adapter, but you cannot put crop sensors on like the 6D. I have heard that you can put the new EFS, no, excuse me, I have heard that you can use the new RFS glass crop sensor for the mirrorless cameras onto Canon R6 full frame. I haven't done it. I've heard people have done it. I think you get some vignetting. There's something about it I read, I don't remember, but I'm not going to try to do that. I've got enough lenses that I'm not going to fool with any of that. So, but just keep that in mind. If you go out and you get a 70D or you get a crop sensor camera and you're buying a bunch of EFS lenses, they're not going to fit if you jump up to a mirrorless camera later on. So keep that in mind. But again, you can take your EF and put them on here. You'll still get that 1.6 crop, but you can use it on the camera. So guys, that's the choice that I use for cameras, and I've always been a Canon guy, These are your 3 choices. I think that are 3 top cameras that Canon makes for the money, the best ones you can get. Just the $270 something 70D and $300 and something 6D is just unbelievable how little that they cost anymore. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, you're looking at buying a camera or whatever, just shoot me an email and I'll be glad to answer it. And if we're helping you guys out, y'all hit subscribe. Have a good day. Thanks.